Should you move or remodel? That's an age-old question, and of course, at JEB Design Build, I'm a remodeler, so I think you should remodel. But let's look at the facts. I had a homeowner a number of years ago. He and his family came and to talk about remodeling, and they had some young kids, and it was a blended family, and they had needs for some bedrooms and bathrooms. They lived on a nice, quiet cul-de-sac. They liked their neighbors. We sat down and talked about some design solutions and what would happen, and again, kind of a budget range. We presented him with a budget proposal, and after he picked himself up on the floor, he said, "Heck no, I'm going to go buy a new house." So he and his wife spent the next couple of months shopping for a new house. What he came back and told me was, well, number one, I don't like the newer neighborhoods because of the trees. I like this, older neighborhood with the trees. He said, of course, I can't control my neighbors. I really love my neighbors, so I really want to be on this cul-de-sac with these neighbors. And then he said, oh gosh, it feels like I'm just closed in with the newer homes. And then he said, I don't think the construction is really as good with the newer homes as it is, with my older home. And of course, his house was built several years ago when lumber was cheaper, so he was probably right. So anyway, we sat down and started drawing plans for him and going through the selection process. They ended up, they added on to the home, stayed in the cul-de-sac with the neighbors and all, and so they stayed there probably about 10 or 12 years. Ended up, the kids were grown or mostly grown, and they decided to build a house, so they embarked on that. But he said, I probably got all my money back, maybe about 5 to 7 years into it. The neighborhood was a good neighborhood, and it's tended to, increase in value. So what we say is you probably, if you decide to remodel, most neighborhoods, if they're increasing somewhat in value, you're probably going to get all of your money back in about 5 to 7 years. It's just an anecdotal rule of thumb. With when you add on, according to Remodeling Magazine, you probably get about 50% of that of the dollars you put into the remodel. You probably get that back right away because obviously you'd have a higher resale value. So those are some of the things to consider. Some of it, quite frankly, is you're listening to your heart, and that is unfortunately that's part of life. When all's said and done, what's going to be your regret in 20 years? As Mark Twain said, in 20 years, you'll probably think more about the things you didn't do than the things you did do.